Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Akalon here, and welcome back to each and every one of you. And of course, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us. I am very happy to have you here. Of course, in today's video, we are taking a look at Zovaal, and more specifically, I've spent the last week and a half, almost 2 weeks, really trying to figure out what it is that Zovaal did that got him banished. We constantly hear it. Everyone talks about him as evil, a monster. He's this, he's that, he's banished, he can never get free. If he gets free, it's the end of the Shadowlands. It's the end of everything the first one's built. But the main question, in my opinion, before we can even begin to answer what it is that he wants, is what did he do to actually get banished? Now, we don't have exact evidence of this, so everything I'm telling you here is my speculation, my theory, and a lot of it actually does come from my recent playthrough of the Shadowlands quest leveling experience once again for my hunter on NA. Getting to level 60, there were a lot of moments where things that they said that I previously just completely missed just popped out at me, and I was like, whoa. That is rather interesting. A good example of this, which has nothing to do with this video, is when you go into the scenario for Ardenweald, and you actually get to meet Tyrande for the very first time, and you're in Torghast. Tyrande is basically flinging shit all over the room, and if you click on Tyrande, you actually see that she is hinkering on the brink of death. The curse of Elune literally damages her and then heals the exact same amount of damage that it just did to her, as long as it can be maintained. So the curse of Elune legitimately is trying to kill Tyrande. Right now she has a handle on it, so it's not doing enough damage, but literally if you look at her health pool, it's inches, dude. It is on the verge of doing too much damage and actually killing her. And I sort of want to believe that it started out with her having full health, and then maybe taking a quarter of her health, and then giving her it back. And at this point, she is almost at the beginning of the Shadowlands, on the verge of dying. She is very close to the end of the road, and right now her rage is the only thing that's really keeping her alive. But that's something that I literally, for the first time now, saw once I was in that scenario, and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. This is very interesting, and there might be a video on that in the future. But for this video, we are looking at Zovaal. Now, before we get into the video, remember to slap a like on this video. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes, and also leave a comment, because the YouTube algorithm now apparently wants comments. So write whatever the hell you want. Best joke wins. That's basically all I can ask of you. And remember, if you want to follow me live, the link to Twitch is in the description down below. Also Sunday, right here on YouTube, every Sunday, the Sunday night Shill Show. I would be very honored to have you there. And without further ado, let's just jump into the video. Now, the first thing that I really started to look at, and I'm going to give you everything that sort of jumped out at me as I was leveling, and then I'm going to give you my speculation theory for what exactly is going on here. But right at the start, the thing that made me look harder at the past, the living experience, was the very first time you go into the mall, and you're doing a quest for Venari to plant a beacon. Everyone should know it's in Zovaal's cauldron. You plant the beacon, and then there's this commotion that happens where Bane Bloodhoof is taken into Torghast. This is sort of the lead up to you saving Bane, and then after that, Bane sits on his ass in Oribos doing nothing. But, you know, he acts as if he went through the most, and yet we rescued him first. By now, he should be up and running, and he should actually be helping, but no, he's just sitting on his ass, he's doing nothing. Much like what he always does. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. When you run to pick up his weapon, right, there is a Morsworn that ambushes you. And the Morsworn has a very interesting line. The Morsworn says, "It doesn't matter. You will all soon be part of the Jailer." Now, I am paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact lines that were said. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording at the time of doing it. It was just a blind playthrough of me just sort of having fun trying to get to max level and sort of getting ready to do this on stream. But yeah, this is legitimately what it boils down to. You will all soon be part of the Jailer. That was a big clue for me. That was one of the biggest clues for me. But anyways, that's not the only clue. That's not the only thing that I'm looking at here. another thing that really stood out to me is very specifically, if you guys remember the once you reach max level, you've finished all of the covenants, one of the first things you do is you go to the Arbiter's room with Telenara, right? And now you for the first time see the Pantheon of Death and how they've all sort of, you know, they each have their pillar and they're discussing what has happened. And we get to this point where the Winter Queen is basically giving up. The Winter Queen states that if Zovaal is moving, if the Banished One is moving, if he is stirring, if he gets free, it's over. They've already lost. With the Nathrius now also defecting and the Primers having fallen, they've lost. They cannot stop him. But she almost makes it sound, and not just her, there's multiple accounts of this, where when they speak about the Jailer, they really do seem terrified of him, as if there is no way to stop him. Even if all their powers are combined, they cannot stop him once he gets free of them all. So this sort of took me back to Ian and what Ian said at BlizzCon. Ian called Zovaal a Titan++, and I've asked this question many a times, and maybe you can use the comment section now to answer that question. I've asked this question multiple times. Do you believe that Zovaal is a Titan++? Because he was born that way, he is simply more powerful than the others? Or is he a Titan++ because of all of the souls? Now, I'm actually changing my answer, but I'll explain to you exactly why I'm changing my answer in a short while. So after these first two things happened, I realized that I have to sort of zoom out and look at the entirety of the Shadowlands, everything that we know and see right now, and ask ourselves what exactly is going on. How exactly does all of this fit with each other? Now, the biggest clue here, one of the clues actually did come from Carestia in Bastion and the whole glitch where a warlock was able to kill Carestia and suddenly all life in Bastion ceased to exist. Literally upon her death, it says that all life has just ceased to exist in this realm. This was the first sort of clue that I had that maybe these realms aren't natural. Maybe these realms really are tied to the ones who made them. But the next part of this actually came from Ardenweald. Ardenweald, the problem with the other two realms is there's not much to go on there. A lot of it does appear as if it was simply sort of acquiesced by the first ones and that they themselves weren't necessarily the original creators of it. But the biggest evidence I have of this, of course, comes from Ardenweald. You see, in Ardenweald we have conflicting sort of evidences. The Night Fae believe that the Winter Queen created Ardenweald. They lead us to believe that the Winter Queen designed Ardenweald, and much of Ardenweald was actually designed not to house souls, but that this was almost by accident. The Arbiter decided that souls should be housed there. The Winter Queen simply made the realm. However, when you talk to the Mushroom dude, and again, I forget his name, but when you talk to the dude that is in control of the Mushroom network, he has a very different story. You see, he explains that he's been there from the beginning and that the Winter Queen wasn't there at first. He was there when the Winter Queen started doing things in Ardenweald, but that Ardenweald did exist prior to her doing things in Ardenweald. So again, conflicting sort of realizations, sort of realities. Now here we get into some speculation. You see, I don't think that the Shadowlands, quite frankly, is natural. I genuinely don't believe that, and this was actually a discovery that we made during the last Shill show. Look at the cosmological map, and I do hope that Alex is putting the cosmology map on the screen right now, otherwise I'm gonna have to Google it, and I Google it almost every single video, so I thought I'd give you guys a break. So hopefully it is on the screen right now. But if you look at the cosmology map, something that snapped on Sunday night for me during the Shill show, and it was actually viewers that started pointing this out. The Emerald Dream, Azeroth in the Shadowlands, looks to be a closed loop system. In other words, a system within a system. We are told that every soul that dies ventures to its original cosmological force. What if we're not even in the realms of death? The Shadowlands clearly appears to be connected to Azeroth. as is the Emerald Dream. There seems to be a very intimate connection there. But if I'm looking at the map correctly, and given the opportunity, or maybe, hopefully, the Titans understood this correctly, I'm thinking they did, because I think they were part of the people who actually built this closed loop system to sort of exclude all of the other cosmological forces from having any interference in reality and the cycle of life that they wished to preserve within the system. But so I don't think we're even in the realms of death, by the way. I believe in my heart of heart that the Shadowlands is a construct meant to control the flow of souls, meant to control the flow of power within the universe. So, in my mind, at least, it could be wrong, you could have your own opinions, it's not really relevant to the theory, it's just something that I wanted to point out as something that sort of jumped out at me. Now, back to the theory, back to looking at the Shadowlands holistically. There is simply too much evidence that these Eternal Ones, whoever they are, weren't the original creators of things. So, for example, if you played through the Necrolord campaign, you help Kalthazard, or at least you try to figure out what Kalthazard is up to, and one of the books that Kalthazard actually took out from the library was Pathways of the First Ones, and then you learn from the guy that's helping you figure out what Kalthazard is doing, or you're helping him really, figuring out what Kalthazard is doing, you learn that the Pathways of the First Ones is literally the pathways we use to get to these other realms. So these realms were very much created most likely by the First Ones, and then sort of co-opted by the Eternal Ones when they set their plans in motion. Now, of course, we still have no real evidence of who the First Ones is. We only really have whispers and massive questions around who the First Ones may or may not be. But here's where my theory begins, here's where my speculation begins, and here's where all of this comes together. Now, there's a lot of things that I sort of left out because they simply added to my doubts around why they call him evil. It was so telling to me when the Winter Queen speaks about him. The only one that calls him brother is the Primus, by the way. It's only the Primus in his voice lines, in his letter, that refers to Zovaal as brother. The rest call him monster, evil, banished one, but never brother. Denathrius actually calls him friend. He doesn't even call him brother, he calls him friend, and eventually calls him master. So Denathrius, this by the way is another reason why I don't think that Denathrius is an original First One. In fact, in Ravendreth's quest campaign, he is called the Lord of Dread. So he himself, I don't think, is on the power level of Zovaal. I don't think he's anywhere near the power level of Zovaal. But I believe that their brother, the one that they once had, is no more. Now I want you to take a look at the room that the Arbiter is in, specifically during this cinematic where we see the different pillars, and hopefully Alex will show this room to you right now.
May I serve?
The maw grows, surging with power. How did this come to pass?
The evil we believed forever bound has conspired to distract and divide us. The Primus realized the truth, but his warning came too late. I fear he paid a grave price for this knowledge.
You speak for Ravendreth. Where is your sire? Where is our brother, Denathrius?
My sire has betrayed us all. The drought was his doing. He stole the very lifeblood of our realms, starving his own people. And yours as well. When his lies were exposed, Denathrius unleashed his vast coffers of anima into the maw to fuel the might of his true master.
Long ago, we stood as one to imprison that monster. With the Primus gone, and Denathrius a traitor, our pantheon has been broken, and doom comes for the Shadowlands.
There is yet hope. This mortal saved me from the maw. and revealed the Sire's treachery.
They aided my forest as well. Their kind has shown great potential. If focused, it could turn the tide in our favor.
Agreed. For the good of the Shadowlands, each mortal must choose a covenant.
And when our realms have regained their strength, we will stand together against the darkness.
I will see it done, Eternal Ones. With her voice have I spoken. Come, mortal. The hour of decision is at hand.
We see the pillars that each one of the first, or the Eternal Ones, is stood upon. With one of the pillars, the head of the table, so to speak, looking as if it either has a crest on it or it's been desecrated, right? It seems to be cracked. The crack, however, is also very interesting, but not part of this theory. So this suggests that at one point or another, the Titans, or the Eternal Ones of the Shadowlands, served on this pantheon, much like the pantheon that we see in the Realms of Order, very similar to the Realms of Order pantheon. But at some point, Zovaal did something that changed the way they viewed him as, something that changed the way, the dynamic within the group. Let me quickly explain what I think the first realms look like. I believe that all of the Eternal Ones judged souls together. That was their job. That was the main thing that they did. I believe each of them also had a job to create different worlds and to go throughout the Shadowlands and basically make afterlives for all the different souls that may exist. I believe the leader of the Death Pantheon, Zovaal, he was in charge of the most evil and vile of souls in the universe. I believe that he was always called the Jailer. This is, by the way, a switch up of the original theories that we had. We believe that he became the Jailer after he was banished, but what if he was always the Jailer? He was always the one, as the leader of the Pantheon of Death. He had the job of basically jailing the most dangerous souls in the universe to ensure that those souls cannot escape and cause more havoc. But there is a very interesting quote from Friedrich Nietzsche that states the following: "Beware that, when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. For when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you." This is a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most prolific philosophers of our time. And I believe this is exactly what happened to Zovaal over centuries of guarding the most vile and evil souls in our universe. Zovaal started asking a question. Why do these souls even deserve life? Why do they even deserve to exist? Now, one of the things that stands out to me about the Eternal Ones is that while they seem to be very preoccupied with anima, they do not appear to use the anima themselves. Rather, the anima is used for their realms, it's used to power their realms, but at no point does it appear as if they themselves consume this anima in order to empower themselves. They use the anima only for the means of keeping their realms in order. But it's really the runes on the Jailer's body that gives us the biggest insight. These runes are constantly seen wherever souls are being kept. Now, there is an interesting place where these runes appear in Uther's tomb. And you do wonder, what is it meant to hide inside that tomb? Why are these runes inside Uther's tomb? They're lit up inside the tomb of Uther. But that's neither here nor there. You look at Frostmourne, these runes exist. You look at Sargeras, these runes are constantly used within the armors and the demons that he basically secures for himself. Now, I've argued that these runes, the runes on his body, the runes that they use, we know that it's called a language of the First Ones. Jaina herself refers to it as a language of the First Ones, a language of magic, so to speak. What exactly that language may be, they don't know, but they do know that it's powerful. I argue, looking at those runes also around Anduin, that they're meant to imprison things. They're meant to hold things within itself. So when you mark something with a specific collection of runes, you actually open the way for the container, so to speak. Look at the maw. Pay attention to the creatures within the maw. The creatures there are either mindless or all connected to the Jailer. Now remember the first message that I told you guys about. It matters not. They will all soon be part of the Jailer. I told you guys a while ago that what if the Jailer actually created or made himself into a rune blade and absorbed some extremely powerful soul? What if he didn't just absorb a single powerful soul? What if he absorbed all of it? What if the ancient evil that lies at the heart of Torghast is in fact the Jailer? Every soul that enters into Torghast is being consumed by the Jailer. But these souls does have an adverse effect, so to speak. You see, the more vile and evil souls the Jailer consumes, the more souls he consumes. It's very much like cannibalism in popular theory or popular culture. Cannibalism eventually allows or forces the human to lose their humanity. Everything that may have made them good eventually just becomes sort of numbed, and everything that made them bad gets heightened to the point where they become evil creatures, so to speak. So the more souls that Zovaal started to consume, and perhaps at the beginning this was done for a good purpose. Perhaps at the beginning Zovaal truly believed that by consuming these souls and strengthening himself, he could ensure the safety of the Shadowlands. There would be nothing wrong with it. Now, this story isn't so far-fetched. It's not so hard to believe. It is a story that people can relate to. The hero that falls because of the evil that he's seen, and the evil darkens his vision, and he becomes the villain that he so desperately tried to fight off. We've seen this with Sargeras before. So, from a storytelling perspective, it's actually perfect. It is the perfect story. I don't know if it's true, but I do believe that Blizzard could absolutely ship this story. So what happened? How did they find out about it? The speculation isn't over, by the way. I still have some juicy bits about Frostmourne that actually feeds into this theory quite well. I believe that after a time where the Eternal Ones went around and created worlds for souls to live in, eternal bliss, so to speak, at some point they realized that something is wrong. Perhaps they ventured into the maw to go see their brother, and what they found shocked them to the core. A desolate place. Their brother had consumed every soul under his charge, and he had transformed into something else, something not their brother. This is perhaps the reason the Primus still refers to him as brother. In the very next line, he refers to him as the Banished One. The Winter Queen simply calls him evil and a monster. Perhaps because the brother that they once knew is no more. But of course, they figure this out, and drawing upon the power of the heart of the forest, they manage to make the maw inescapable, banishing him forevermore to the very place where he committed his genocide, if you will, of every soul within the universe that didn't quite meet the requirements for an afterlife. Perhaps these souls were meant to be there, and as a jailer, he would punish them for a while and then they would move on to the different realms within the universe. But at some point he got greedy and decided to use every soul, regardless of whether that soul would eventually escape. The thing that stood out to me is, first and foremost, every single round that the Eternal Ones now run, all of them serve a singular purpose, and that is to keep Zovaal locked up. They sort of are afterlives, but they're not afterlives. They are service centers, where your entire service is to ensure that Zovaal gets access to 0 souls, and to ensure that should he escape, we have an army in the Maldraxi that can take care of him, that can sort of push back, right? So everything now was changed. Oribos most likely was erected. One of the interesting things is that none of the denizens of the Shadowlands knows anything about Zovaal pre-banishment. That was one of the big clues to me. None of them know anything about Zovaal pre-banishment. They only know after he was banished, which tells us that these realms, Ardenweald, Revendreth, Maldraxxus, they did not exist. Bastion, they did not exist prior to the banishment of Zovaal. They were built in response to him. Now, I did promise you guys one last theory on Frostmourne. After he was banished, now starved of souls, literally incapable of feasting and feeding on the souls, Zovaal comes up with a new plan. Now, I don't know when this happened, but I do believe that it happened. I don't know if perhaps he had to rip out his own soul in order to allow him to become the vessel that consumes souls, or if he ripped out his own soul afterwards. But I believe that that moment we see Zovaal reaching into the portal and pulling out a little blue stone, a crystal. We've asked, what souls are these? Where do these, what souls are being used here? I believe it's his soul. I believe that Zovaal locked away his own soul, and he is using his own soul to create these Mournblades. There's that famous line, Frostmourne hungers. It did hunger. Zovaal had no access to souls. The only souls you could get is the souls that Frostmourne had access to. And if you think about what the task of the Lich King was, it was to kill everyone on Azeroth. Millions of souls that once the Jailer got free, he could consume again. And now he's doing the exact same thing to Anduin. Why? Because he still can't escape them all. But Anduin could. And suddenly there is a whisper. The Boy King serves at the Master's table. 3 lies will he offer you. Maybe? I don't know. Anyways, that is my theory. That is what I found interesting this week. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that you have something to add to the conversation. Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you have a different theory. Let me know in the comment section down below. Please remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and smash that bell if you enjoy content like this and would like to see more content like this. I'd love to hear from you in the comment section down below. Please remember you can follow me live on Twitch, links in the description down below, or every Sunday right here on YouTube. To all of the patrons, Twitch subs, and of course the YouTube channel members, thank you so much for your monthly contributions. It means the world to me. Without you guys, this channel would quite literally not be here. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Guys, be good to each other, be kind to each other. We're all in this together, and we're all trying to figure this shit out. Until next time, peace out, fam.